Hello, HQ. Here is your lesson for this week. I am here in the resource room, a room full of resources, a bunch of craft materials, other fun things to make and create. I would say this is one of my favorite rooms in the church because there's a bunch of bins full of stuff to make things and create. And so just thought I'd give you a little bit of a sneak peek through here. And also, we are talking a little bit about riches, but not this kind of riches. We're going to be talking about King Solomon, who was blessed and bestowed with a bunch of riches and wealth by God. But before we actually talk about King Solomon, we need to find out how he actually becomes king. Because so far we've been talking about King David, his father. And David's life has been filled with ups and downs ever since he was anointed to become the next king of Israel. Our study has taken place in the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel so far, with an extra feature in the Psalms from last week. But throughout David's life, he turned to God for strength, for advice, for help, for forgiveness. And in our next book, 1st Kings, it starts out with David as an old man at the end of his reign as king. And you'll see that coming to God for advice and for strength is a theme that will continue on in this next chunk of our series. Now, there was a bit of a confusing time between two of King David's sons, Adonijah and Solomon. Both were thinking that they would be the next king. However, after a bit of that mix-up, David pronounced that Solomon would in fact be the king, and he announced it so it was clear that Solomon would be the next one for people to follow as the king. One day, when King David was about to die, he called Solomon to him, and he blessed him, passing on God's promises to him. God promised David that his sons would continue to reign over Israel as long as they obeyed God's commands. He wanted them to be faithful with all their heart and with all their soul. And so David encouraged Solomon to be strong in the Lord, to obey him faithfully. Now, as Solomon began to rule over Judah and Israel, he offered sacrifices to the Lord as a sign of his love, and God appeared to Solomon in a dream, saying, "Ask what I shall give you." Could you imagine that? Imagine God coming to you and offering you whatever you wanted. What are some of the things that you would ask for from God? You'll see in 1 Kings 3, verse 9 and 10, that Solomon asked for an understanding mind, for wisdom to know right from wrong, to be able to make the wise decisions. God was actually quite pleased with his request. He could have asked for riches, wealth, a room full of craft supplies that's seemingly never-ending. He could have asked for long life. He could have asked for revenge on his enemies. But asking for wisdom and discernment, the ability to choose right over wrong, to govern the people well as a good king, all this that Solomon asked for, this pleased God. So God granted him his request. But he also gave him those things that he didn't ask for, these extra blessings of riches and honor and a long life. The only instructions, according to 1 Kings 3, verse 12 to 14, was for Solomon to walk in God's ways, to keep his statutes and commandments, to obey and do the right thing. You see, it's not enough just to know what is right and what is wrong. It's to actually follow through and do it. So in your faith at home this week, you'll take some time to see the difference between having knowledge, knowing a lot of things, and actually being wise. It's kind of like if you are the type of person that knows a lot of memory verses, can know all the stories of the Bible, what happened, the places that it happened, if you're really into getting all the facts, maybe you're even able to say all the books of the Bible and you can say all these facts about the stories from the Bible, but you're not actually following what it says, then there's something missing there. That's the difference between having all this knowledge but actually being wise. Wisdom, being wise, actually is taking that knowledge that you have, knowing what it means to honor God, what it means to please him, to show love to others, to respect him, to worship him. It's all that, but actually doing it. And so in your faith at home, we'll take a look at some more verses from the Bible that talk about Solomon's wisdom, that talk about how he showed great knowledge. He knew a lot of stuff, but also exercised ways to actually do the right thing and to give some good advice. We'll continue on in that series and looking at how Solomon had these moments of wisdom and other wonderful things that Solomon did in the coming weeks. But for now, be sure to check back to our weekly update in our mail out, or you can check the website at willingdon.org/children's for a bunch of activities, some other videos to see examples of Solomon's wisdom, and a preview of some of the other cool, awesome things that King Solomon did, and how that fits into the lessons for us. For this week, however, take a look at those discussion questions to help really explore these ideas of knowing what is right versus actually doing what is right. Our prayer for you is that you practice not just being a hearer of the word, somebody who just hears it and just thinks of it as stories or cool things to listen to, versus actually being a doer of the word, actually following through and using the Holy Spirit in your heart to do what God asks us to do. And so be blessed as you do this. We'll be praying for you as you talk a little bit about it. And please share some of the things that you've talked about together. Send us an email or tag us at Willingdon Kids on Instagram so that we can share some of these things that we've been learning and talk about it together. I'll see you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.